Shalom, family. Okay, we're going to continue with the Bible study we had the other night. Is Yahawashi Solomon 2.0. That's kind of the title that I gave it. Okay, just hearing some talk about Solomon being kind of the, how would I say this? Being the foreshadowing of Yahawashi, and I guess Yahawashi being reincarnated as Solomon, or Solomon being reincarnated as Yahawashi, put it that way. Okay, I don't believe in the reincarnation. Later, at some point, I'll do a more in-depth study on reincarnation, but this is kind of the precursor, because I heard that they believe Yahawashi was not good because Yahawashi came back as Solomon, and Solomon sinned towards the end of his life, and so that's why Yahawashi is not good. And I think we just need to get into scripture and break some things down, because that's inaccurate. The number one thing being, if Yahawashi was with sin and he wasn't good, he wasn't a perfect sacrifice without spot or blemish, he wouldn't be sufficient or serviceable as a sacrifice for our sins. He wouldn't be allowed to die for us. He would be unworthy, just as every other man was unworthy. But he was a sacrifice without spot or blemish, so he was good. So we're going to delve into some of the scripture, get a better understanding of what these scriptures are saying, and just go from there. So last time I started with 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12 through 15, which talks about the promise that the Most High gave to David and to his seed, okay? And this is kind of the scripture that some of the camps use as a basis for this idea of reincarnation, and the concept that Solomon, reincarnated as Yahawashi in the later days. So we're going to go on and read that first. Can you find that for me? Actually, read it. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 12 through 15. You must study precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little.
2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 12 through 15.
12 through 15.
And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels.
Salakia. So the Most High is speaking to David and saying that I will set up, establish his, set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels. So your posterity, your descendants that come after you, I will set them up. Okay, keep going.
And I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever.
Okay.
14. I will be his father, and he shall be my son.
Salakia. So I will be his father, and he will be my son. Okay? So the father is saying that he will be my son. So that kind of gives you an understanding as to who he's really talking about. Go on.
If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. 15. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee.
Whom I put away before thee. So in those passages of scripture, the Most High is saying to David, out of your seed will I set up, and he will do three things, okay? The Most High will establish his posterity, or his son, grandson, his generation will establish his kingdom. And this man will be a king. His kingdom will be established. He'll be a king that will build the house of Yahweh. And then if he sins, he will have to be chastened or punished for his disobedience. Three of those points. Okay? That he will be a king, and his kingdom shall be established. He will be a king of righteousness who will help to repair, restore, or build the temple. And then thirdly, will be a man that if he does sin, or sin is associated with him, he will have to be punished for said sins. Okay, according to 2 Samuel chapter 7. Okay, and so I brought out a number of different men, because if you're believing that King Solomon came back again, reincarnated as Yahawashi, the same things that Solomon occupied within those promises, those things apply to other sons of David, if you will. Men who descended from David, from his lineage, and were kings over Judah. You have King Jehoshaphat, you have King Hezekiah, King Josiah, and the governor Zerubbabel during the time of the Babylonian captivity. Okay, you have these four men along with Solomon who also occupy the same promise and the same credentials, the same parameters of this inheritance that is spoken of in 2 Samuel chapter 7, along with Yahawashi, of course. And so if all of these men occupy, are you saying that all five of these men, along with David, because spiritually David, is spoken of as being, Yahawashi, you saying all these men are reincarnated as Yahawashi? That doesn't make any sense. Okay? Well, we understand that Yahawashi was not reincarnated as these men, but that he had the self same righteous spirit as these men. Okay? But to fulfill the covenant that was made with David, he will have an everlasting kingdom. Whereas these men and their kingdom came to an end, Yahawashi's kingdom shall be everlasting. Okay? He says that if he sins, that he will be chastened with the rod of men. I broke that down before. Rod coming from the Hebrew word shebet, meaning branch, stick, correction, scepter, staff. Stripes coming from the Hebrew word naga, meaning blow, plague, stricken, stroke, wound. So it can refer to whipping or beating, even the affliction that Yahawashi endured upon the cross, but it can also talk about plague, talk about some sort of evil being placed on someone. The rod of men, or being the stripes of men, the stripes of the children of men. Okay? The last part there, but my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. So last time I talked about how in 2 Samuel chapter 7, David was given this promise, right? That even if he sinned, I'll punish him, but I will not totally cut him off, but I will establish him. Later on, when David passes on and Solomon, his son, becomes king in his stead, he is visited the second time and made an agreement with the Most High. And saying, if you sin or your children sin, that you will have to face this punishment and you will be cut off and out of the land. So those were two different covenants. Okay, the one with Solomon, the results of Solomon's sin, Salakia, and his children were played out throughout the years of the kings, the Assyrian exile, the Babylonian captivity, and then the times of the Grecians coming in, the times of the Romans, 70 AD, them besieging Jerusalem, all these different things are people being fleeing, being dispersed out of the land, going into other captivities, going into slave trades, going into distant lands of bondage. All these things were played out through the agreement that was made with Solomon. But the original covenant made with David had how would you say, like in a contract, a clause, if you will, a clause in David's contract that said, in the end, I will punish, but in the end, you shall be established. What does it say here in the last part? But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. So your son, or whoever is king, if he sin, I will chasten him, but my mercy shall not depart from him. Now these men, they died. Okay, in the generations of men, of the children of Israel, the kings of Judah, the mercy ended when they died, when they sinned. Okay? But in Yahawashi, mercy is restored to keep the promise he made originally with David. Okay? So we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper. Okay, so first, you read 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12 through 15. I want to read what I'm referring to in that second visit that the Most High made with Solomon when he visited him in his dreams the second time. Okay, I believe that is 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 2 through 7. You want me to read it? You read it? Okay. Thank you.
1 Kings chapter 9, 2 through 7.
Uh-huh.
That Yahweh appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon.
Okay.
And Yahweh said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me.
Okay.
I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever.
Salakia. So again, remember from 2 Samuel chapter 7, there were 3 points. Actually kind of a fourth point, but there's 3 major points that draw a comparison to not only Solomon being David's immediate son, but all the begotten children of his posterity, whether it be Jehoshaphat, Hezekiah, Josiah, Zerubbabel. They all sprout from David, and they all fulfill 3 components of that 2 Samuel chapter 7 promise: establishing the kingdom, building the house or repairing the house of Yahweh, and then being chastened if they disobey. Now, the latter part of that promise was the mercy being restored. Yahawashi is the only one who is able to, receive that part. Okay? But Solomon, as the Most High is visiting him the second time in his vision, is saying that he has built the house. So he's already become a king. He had great honor, great wisdom, great riches. Okay? So that's his kingdom was established. That's the first part. He built the house of the Most High. The first temple that had ever been built is at the hands of Solomon. Okay, go on.
I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually.
Okay.
Verse 4.
In that site, meaning where, not because that house eventually would be destroyed. Okay, it would fall into ruin. Not only destruction by the heathen, but destruction by wicked kings who started to put up idolatrous artifacts and monuments and relics to defile the house. So it wasn't necessarily the building, but it's the site, that place, Jerusalem, that area where his spirit will dwell. Go on.
Verse 4. And if thou wilt walk before me as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments. Verse 5. Then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever.
Salakia. So you see that the Most High spoke to Solomon and made a deal with him, gave him an ultimatum, so to speak. If you do like your father did, you walk upright and you keep my commandments, I will establish you forever. You already had the promise given to David originally in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Now here in 1 Kings chapter 9, Solomon is getting his own personal agreement with the Most High. Okay, I'm visiting you and I'm speaking to you. If you obey me, this is what I'm prepared to do for you, Solomon. I've already shown you the fruits of my blessing and my goodwill in the fact that your kingdom is established. But do you want your legacy through your children to live on? This is what you have to do, and I'm prepared to do it for you. Go on.
Verse 5. Then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel.
Salakia. So the Most High made the promise with David first and said, this is what you're going to get. No man is going to fail from the throne of Israel, from your loins. He already made that. That's a promise. He's not going to break that. But he comes later on and makes the same type of agreement with Solomon. It says if you mess up, there won't be a king. So is the Most High a liar? No. He's talking about through the generations of men. The latter part of that 2 Samuel chapter 7 promise is that I will have mercy. Okay? And that is occupied through Yahawashi. Although all of the other kings of Judah fell off, right? And there was no king to sit upon the throne. We went into captivity and all that. Through the promise he made with David, Yahawashi is the fulfillment of that. The latter part of that promise, and that I will have mercy. You may go a long time without a king on the throne, but there will sit a king upon your throne. And when he sits on that throne and he places on his head the royal diadem, to his kingdom there shall be no end. Now with Solomon's sin and Solomon's sons or children or generations sin that led to this, us being discontinued from our heritage, being discontinued from rulership and kingship. But it is the promise that the Father made with David originally, to where Yahawashi will be the fulfillment, the latter part of that. He will restore, have mercy, and place the seed of David back on the throne to fulfill. Because he's fulfilled Solomon's part of the promise. You messed up, so I gotta keep my end of the bargain and keep a king off the throne. But then I also have to fulfill David's promise and make sure there's a king at the end to sit on the throne. If that makes sense. Keep going.
Verse 6. But if thou shalt at all turn from following me, you or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, verse 7, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and the house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people.
So this is the punishment that we face. Not only the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and other curses throughout the scriptures, but also because of Solomon's sin and Solomon's children, his posterity. They went off, and we're here in Babylon the Great, we know as America, in part because of Solomon's sin. Think about that. It wasn't just Solomon's fault, but a great agreement, a covenant was made with Solomon. He knew the ramifications not only for his own shortcomings, but for knowing that his shortcomings would lead to the demise of his people. Read that last part, because it's not just his children. It's the entire children of Israel.
Is that verse 6?
Yeah.
But if you shall at all turn from following me, you or your children, and will
Verse
not...
7. Verse 7.
Okay. Verse 7. Then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people.
Israel will be a proverb and a byword to all people. So Solomon, if you mess up, this is the way that you bear on you. If you mess up, not only will it mess you up, not only will it mess your children up, it will mess up the entire nation. They all going to go into captivity if you mess up. Because I'm prepared to bless you immensely if you keep my commandments and walk in the ways of your father David. But if you don't, all of y'all going to have to pay. All of y'all going to have to pay. Now think about that when we're talking about Solomon. And they say that Solomon reincarnated as Yahawashi. He made that agreement. If you mess up, everyone going to have to pay for that. Everybody. Now what was Yahawashi's purpose? To come and restore, to unify, to redeem. We just talked about it yesterday. Is it Hebrews? Talked about he became eternal redemption for us. To clean up the mess Solomon made. You know, it's not just Solomon. It was forefathers in the land of Egypt. It was our forefathers, you know, in the promised land. It was our forefathers in the times of the prophets who killed them and turned not to the Most High and turned their face towards the east and worshiped the sun and gave worship to Tammuz and set their children on the fire of Molech and, you know, burnt incense to the Queen of Heaven and all manner of evil. So we know it's all their fault too. But Solomon messed up, and it started the avalanche effect. Solomon's sin messed it up. So Yahawashi came as the cleanup man to clean up the mess Solomon made. Okay? So from there, let's go to 1 Kings 11 and 8, because we're going to talk about what Solomon's sin was.
Just 8?
8 through 11.
Okay. 1 Kings chapter 11, 8 through 11. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. 9. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from King Yahweh of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice.
Yeah.
Verse 10. And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which Yahweh commanded. Verse 11. Wherefore Yahweh said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant.
So not only did the Most High appear to Solomon the first time in Gibeah and tell him, don't take unto yourself strange wives. Not only did he get a personal commandment not to do it, the commandment is in the law of Moses. In the book of Deuteronomy, it says, if you set a king over you, have him not receive unto himself strange wives to cause him to go after other gods. It's also a commandment that the king, if there be a king set over the children of Israel, that they take the book of the law and read it and declare it to the children of Israel. So Solomon, if you keep in the law, you're supposed to read the law for yourself and read it to the children of Israel. So you're supposed to have an understanding of the law. You're supposed to know what Deuteronomy says. And not only that, you got your own personal lecture from the Most High himself and said, don't do it. Do not get these wives and, you know, get all these strange women and make them your wives. Do not do it, Solomon. And he did it anyway. He did it anyway. And he was angry with Solomon because of that. All right. So again, going back to 2 Samuel chapter 7 and the promise that was made. You want to say something? No? Okay. 2 Samuel chapter 7, the promise that was made to David, and towards the end of it says that if he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. Okay? So we understand that Solomon started off doing good. He started off good. But then he ran into that roadblock. Okay? Them strange women which caused him to go off. So he sinned before the Most High in doing so. Not just the women part, but what the love for his wives caused him to do. The having a whole bunch of wives was sinful in and of itself, just the lustful aspect. But then the fact that, Salakia, that he went and built altars to all the gods of all of his 700 wives and 300 concubines. That's the crazy part. And caused the children of Israel to go off because he was setting this up as king. The people are only going to do what the shepherd allowed them to do. And Solomon was like the shepherd over the people. He was king, a ruler. And so if you go off, then that means majority of the people are going to go off too, because this is what you allow. This is what you allow. Okay? What was I going to grab? Oh, I was talking about the rod of men and the stripes of the children of men. So when he sinned, he had to be punished. So again, we're going back to this idea that Solomon reincarnated as Yahawashi. and that because of his sin, when he died, that he came back as Yahawashi and he had to pay for his former sin, that's not scriptural. But Solomon, according to the way rod and stripes are defined with the Hebrew word shebet and nega, Solomon endured his own stripes, rods of men and stripes of the children of men, while he was yet alive. Okay? He didn't die without having to face persecution and affliction according to the promises that was made to him the second time in 1 Kings 9. He faced that before he died. So he didn't die without punishment and then have to come back as Yahawashi to die on a cross. He faced that before he died. So we're going to pull that out. See, Solomon's adversaries. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 14.
Verse 14.
Yep.
And Yahweh stirred up an adversary unto Solomon.
Okay.
Hadad.
So, Salaki, right there. So, in 2 Samuel, the promise made with David, it says, with the stripes of the children of men. Okay? So, stripes can also mean the plague, the stroke. Okay? So, that means some evil. A plague, something that rises up, something that stirred up a plague of the children of men. Okay? So, this came and afflicted Solomon because of his iniquity. Read that again, 14.
And Yahweh stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite.
The Edomite.
He was of the king's seed in Edom.
Okay, that's just 14.
Mm-hmm.
Read me verse 23 and 25. So you got Hadad the Edomite, who was an adversary that was stirred up like a plague. Okay? He had Hadad. That was the first adversary. Read on.
Verse 23, and Yahweh stirred him up and another adversary, Rezin, the son of Eliada, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah.
Desert.
And you said 25?
Yeah. What is it?
Hadadezer.
Okay.
Verse 25, and he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria.
Okay, so that's Rezin. So Rezin reigned over Syria. Hadad was of the Edomites. These were two young men who in the times of David or in the early years of Solomon faced persecution. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like Godfather Part 2 when Vito had to escape from Sicily, right? Because the Don killed his father, right? But once Vito Corleone came of age, came of power, he went back to Sicily and killed that man. It's almost the same thing. Either with David, because at the time of David with Hadad, David and Joab went into Edom and into the land of Edom to kill all the men. And Hadad and some of his family escaped into Egypt. And he stayed in Egypt. And when he found out that David had died and Solomon was on the throne, he said, I'm going back now to reclaim my kingdom. I'm going to fight against Solomon. I'm going to take back what David, his father, took from my people. Think about that. And Rezin, the same way, he fled from the hand of Solomon. And then when he felt strengthened, I'm going to go back and fight him. And then the third adversary, do I have it here? I should have it. You can read, you still got chapter 11, right? Move down to verse 38. Because those are two great adversaries that Solomon had to contend with in the latter parts of his life because of his iniquity. So he did face, the rod of men and the stripes of the children of men. Read that.
Verse 38. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee and build thee a sure house as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee.
Okay, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought I was gonna go into it more, but that's when Abijah the prophet came and ripped the garment of Jeroboam and said, "Look, I'm giving you 10 tribes, and Solomon gonna have one." Okay. So the third adversary was Jeroboam, who reigned over the northern kingdom. So not only did he have two foreigners, two strangers who was wanting to war against him and seeking his head, Solomon's head, he had his own brethren in the northern kingdom who rose up in power, rose up in rank. And after the death of Solomon, Solomon's son Rehoboam and Jeroboam became the first dual kings in Israel. And you saw that great conflict play out. So Solomon had to contend with 3 great adversaries. Jeroboam wasn't quite as strong because until Solomon's death, but he was still yet an adversary. And it says in the scriptures that Solomon sought to kill Jeroboam. He saw him as a threat. Now there was peace throughout the time, most of the time of Solomon's reign. Why? Because the Most High spoke to David and said, through your son will he build the temple. And so in order for one to have his mind focused on the architecture and the meticulous details and the great work that goes into building the house of Yahweh, you need peace. You can't be worried about going off to war and the building is still left unbuilt or half built. So the Most High granted Solomon peace throughout his kingdom. Solomon had peace throughout it. I mean, talking about in the first part of his reign, Solomon's reign, before he sinned the great sin, there was great peace. That way he was able to build the house. Once he sinned, the Most High said, okay, I'm done with all this peace. I'm going to stir up some adversaries.
In verse 26 is where it talks about Jeroboam lifting up his hand against.
Go ahead, read that for me, please.
Verse 26 of the same chapter 11 of 1 Kings. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lift up his hand against the king.
So Jeroboam, son of Nebat, he rose up his hand against the king. And this is all the will of the Most High. Remember, the prophet Abijah came to Jeroboam and said, look, the Most High is about to give you these 10 kingdoms. And as you read in verse 38, if you keep my commandments as my servant David, I will put you on the same pedestal as the house of David. That's what I'm prepared to do. I'll rip it from Solomon's hands and give it to you. But Jeroboam went off too. So David's promise will stand, but he made that secondary covenant with Solomon, and Solomon messed it up. And so he was prepared to take what he gave to Solomon and give it to Jeroboam. Even if he did, that still would not negate the fulfillment that he would do in David. Because he can, establish Jeroboam's seed, but there would still be a son of David that would sit upon the throne. Okay? Now, when we're talking about this, again, this concept of Solomon being reincarnated as Yahawashi, it's not founded in Scripture. It's not. Okay? The name Solomon appears 275 times outside of the books of Kings, Chronicles, Nehemiah, Ezra, Psalms, and Proverbs, and Songs of Solomon. So throughout those books, that's where the name Solomon appears in the Old Testament. And it's really just talking about him and his acts and events and genealogies, things of that nature. Nothing that speaks to him being the Messiah or being in the image of Mashiach or anything like that. Not at all in the Old Testament. It's only mentioned one time outside of those collections of books. It's once in the book of Jeremiah. Outside of that 275 times, one time is the name of Solomon mentioned outside of those books. It's the book of Jeremiah, and it's just talking about Solomon's porch. That's it. Those are all the times Solomon's name is mentioned in the Old Testament. And the New Testament, he's mentioned 70 times. And either he's mentioned in a genealogy in the Gospels, in the reference of the lilies of the field, when Yahawashi says, don't worry about that. Look at the lilies of the field. They're dressed better than Solomon. Or, again, Solomon's porch being referenced. There's no place in the New Testament or the Old Testament that says that Solomon in some shape, form, or fashion is in the image of Mashiach or will come and be the Savior, or none of that. None of that. It's not in there. Not in the Apocrypha either. It's not in there. I think it appears, I want to say 12 or 11 times in the Apocrypha, Solomon's name. Okay, it's not in there. It's not founded. All right. And again, if we go back to the Davidic covenant that was made in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12, there were three components. That your seed I will set up, his kingdom shall be established. He will build the house or repair the house. And then if he sin, he will be chastened, right? And be punished for that with the rods of men and the stripes of the children of men. Those three components. Okay? Solomon occupied that, but there were other men, like I mentioned. So if all these men fill it, is all of these men coming back as Yahawashi? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. When we're referring to Yahawashi in that way, it's not that these men reincarnated as Yahawashi, but that Yahawashi takes on the self-same righteous spirit that these men had, like David, okay, or the greatness and glory and wisdom of Solomon, but he's not Solomon. The righteousness of Hezekiah and of Josiah, but he's not Hezekiah or Josiah. The devoutness of Zerubbabel, but he's not Zerubbabel. You understand? So you're going to go into that a little bit more. Let's deal with Jehoshaphat first. I'm going to grab this. So we're going to talk about Jehoshaphat's greatness. He was Asa's son, king over Judah. And Asa was righteous himself, but Jehoshaphat was his son. 2 Chronicles chapter 17, verse 3. We're going to talk about Jehoshaphat's greatness. Because again, those three components will establish his kingdom. So meaning the greatness of his kingship. He will help to build the house or repair the house. And then if he sinned, he's going to have to be punished for that. So he's going to be a great king. He's going to help build the house of the Most High. And he's going to sin at some point and have to be punished. Those three components, according to the covenant that was made with David in 2 Samuel chapter 7. All right? 2 Chronicles. It may seem a little confusing. I'm trying to, through the Spirit, give understanding. Bringing a lot of scripture out, but just want to try to just walk with me, okay? 2 Chronicles chapter 17, verse 3 through 5. And Yahweh was with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the ways of his father David, and sought not unto Balaam, but sought to Yahweh of his father, and walked in his commandments, and not after the doings of Israel, meaning of the northern kingdom, meaning Ahab. Salakia. 5. Therefore Yahweh established the kingdom in his hand. Actually uses the same terms used in 2 Samuel. Established the kingdom in his hand. And all Judah brought to Jehoshaphat presents, and he had riches and honor in abundance. That kind of sounds like what Solomon got. Maybe not quite to the measure of Solomon, but he was blessed and honored of the people. And they gave him presents, and he had riches in abundance. Jehoshaphat, and he kept the commandments. He walked in the same ways of his father, David. Not Asa. He was righteous like his actual father, Asa, but his great ancestor, David. He walked in righteousness as well. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was the 5. Now we're going to talk about his participation in the repairing of the temple. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 5. I'll read that. And Jehoshaphat stood in the congregation of Judah and Jerusalem in the house of Yahweh before the new court. So this court, Jehoshaphat commissioned to be built. It obviously was falling apart, or he just wanted to add an addition to the house of Yahweh. So he used his riches, he used his resources, and he added, and what's the word I'm looking for? Renovations, made renovations to the house of Yahweh. So there you go. He was great. He helped with the house. Now let's look at his shortcomings. Okay? I'm going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 18, verse 16 and 17. I'll read them. Then he said, I did see all Israel scattered upon the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. And Yahweh said, these have no master. Let them return, therefore, every man to his house in peace. 17. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he would not prophesy good unto me, but evil? So this right here is when King Jehoshaphat and King Ahab were together, and they had the false prophets declaring lies unto him. And Jehoshaphat was like, look, bro, can you grab a real prophet so we can get understanding as what we should do, if we should go to war or not? They got Micaiah the prophet, and he came and declared the words in the presence of those two kings and said, if y'all go to war, they're going to be scattered like sheep without a shepherd. Meaning, it's not looking good. Y'all shouldn't go to war. Jehoshaphat sought out a prophet to give him a word from on high. He got what he asked for. And the word was, you shouldn't go out to war because if you do, it's going to be some problems. Now, if you're a righteous king, you get the answer to your prayer. What you going to do? Well, if the prophet say don't go, I'm not going. That would be common sense. But let's see what Jehoshaphat ends up doing. Read verse 28, the same chapter. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. That was the place they were supposed to go fight. So they got the word and ended up going anyway. Read verses 1 through 3 of the next chapter, 19. And Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem. And Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, shouldest thou help the ungodly and love them that hate Yahweh? Therefore is wrath upon thee from before. Let me read that again. Therefore is wrath upon thee from before Yahweh. Nevertheless, there are good things found in thee, and that thou hast taken away the groves out of the land, and hast prepared thine heart to seek Yah. So Jehoshaphat went up with Ahab. Ahab ended up dying. But he went up there, and the prophecy was fulfilled. The people were scattered. Jehoshaphat escaped and went back home in peace. When he went back home, the prophet came back out and said, bruh, did you get the word not to go out to battle? Well, so you going to listen to Ahab more than what the prophet said? But the Most High going to have mercy on you. But you're going to still have to be punished for what you did. See what I'm saying? According to the Davidic covenant, the rods of men, the stripes of the children of men, Jehoshaphat, his kingdom was established. He had great riches. Okay? He helped build the new court to the temple. But look, he went off and he disobeyed the voice of the Most High through the mouth of the prophet and went up to war, and wrath of the Most High was on him for that. Okay? Now we're going to see what that wrath was. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 1 through 3. It came to pass after this also that the children of Moab and the children of Ammon, and with them other beside the Ammonites, came against Jehoshaphat to battle. Then there came some that told Jehoshaphat, saying, there cometh a great multitude against thee from beyond the sea on this side Syria. And behold, they be in Hazazon Tamar, which is in Engedi. Okay. And Jehoshaphat feared and set himself to seek Yahweh and proclaimed a fast throughout all of Judah. So you had this great multitude of enemies that sought to destroy Jehoshaphat and the children of Israel. If he did not go up to war with Ahab, he wouldn't even have to worry about that. And so now he's praying and fasting and, wanting the Most High's protection. Let's see. Now, Jehoshaphat was spared. Okay? He was spared from dying in battle. But because of his sinfulness, it went on to his son, who ended up going off as well. Jehoram. Okay? So we're going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 21, verses 12 through 19. And there came a writing to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, thus saith Yahweh of David thy father, because thou hast not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat thy father, nor the ways of Asa king of Judah, but hast walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and has made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to go a-whoring, like to the whoredoms of the house of Ahab, and also hast slain thy brethren of thy father's house, which were better than thyself. So this was the same man who wanted to try to protect his kingship by killing his own brothers. Okay. 14. Behold, with the great plague will Yahweh smite thy people, and thy children, and thy wives, and all thy goods. Okay, this is destruction that will come upon Jehoram because of his sinfulness. But not only on him, but you, your wives, and your kids gonna get it. Because you sinned against the Most High. 15. And thou shalt have great sickness by disease of thy bowels, until thy bowels fall out by reason of the sickness day by day. So you're gonna get such a bad sickness that your bowels, your intestines gonna fall out your butt, dog. That's the kind of destruction you're gonna get. What's good?
Hey.
Moreover, Yahweh stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines and of the Arabians, and were near the Ethiopians. So Jehoram, because of his sinfulness, not only did he get a crazy disease, syphilis, or something crazy, gonorrhea, something crazy, his bowels fall out his butt. You know what I'm saying? Jehoram. This is Jehoshaphat's son. Because he sinned against the Most High, he got a crazy disease, and the Most High stirred up enemies around about to come and attack him. And he said, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your wife, and I'm going to kill your kids because you disobeyed. So this is not a glory unto Jehoshaphat, his father. Jehoshaphat is gone, but this is dishonor unto him. This also applies to the rods of men, the stripes of the children of men. So in the same way, Jehoshaphat, just like Solomon, got those three components of the Davidic covenant in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Establish your kingship rather. You help build the house, and then you'll be afflicted for your sinfulness. Okay? Because Jehoshaphat, he was threatened with evil, even though he was spared, because he went up to war with Ahab when he shouldn't have. But his wicked son got the brunt of the punishment, if you will. He got the heavy brunt of that. All right? Was that the 19?
No, I don't think so.
17. And they came up into Judah and brake into it and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also, and his wives, so that there was never a son left him, save Jehoahaz, the youngest of his sons. So those Ethiopians, the Philistines and the Arabians ran up in his house, stole all of his money, stole all of his jewels, and stole all of his artifacts and everything that was valuable to him, took his wives, killed his son, except for his youngest son. Okay?
That's crazy. That's wild.
Verse 18. And after all this, Yahweh smote him in his bowels with an incurable disease. You can't rub no icy hot on that. It's a wrap. 19. And it came to pass that in process of time, after the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reason of his sickness, so he died of sore diseases. And his people made no burning for him, like the burning of his fathers. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure that has to do with some sort of ceremonious, thing that's done at the time of death. If your bowel fell out, you probably would stink. They probably just threw him in a tomb and said, yo, it's over. Ain't even no point in staying around, trying to, say some final words. Just throw him in the ground and call it a wrap.
This was on Jehoshaphat?
No, not on Jehoshaphat, on his son.
Okay.
Because of his wickedness. Okay. So we're going to deal with Hezekiah. Bring out some scripture on him, and we're going to call it a night. I'm going to have to finish up tomorrow. So, Jehoshaphat, like we said, those three components: establishing the kingship, helping with the house, and then sinning and having to be punished for it with the rods of men, the stripes of the children of men. Jehoshaphat is just like Solomon, Salakia, in that regard. Did that mean they both were reincarnated as Yahawashi? We really got to get into this reincarnation deal. We really got to get into that. That's not sound. It's not scriptural. It doesn't say that anywhere. Okay? So Hezekiah. Let's talk about Hezekiah's righteousness. Okay? Get me, Gail. 2 Kings chapter 18. What does that say? I don't know what that say. It might be 14 to 15. I don't know. I've made it real small, so I can't really determine what that say.
I have 18, but now I need to.
2 Kings chapter 18, verse 14. Try that.
And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me.
Nah. Try 11, verse 11.
Verse 11, and the king of Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria, and put them in Halah, and in Habor by the river of
You good, bro. It's going this way, so you don't got to walk under it. You good.
And in the cities of the Medes.
That ain't it either. I had something about his righteousness and how he was so righteous. Bear with me real quick. What does that say? Second sin? Y'all ain't got to whisper. 2 Kings 18. Give me 15 or 16. Tell me what that say.
You already had me read 15.
No, you didn't. You did 14.
Okay. 15, and Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of Yahweh and in the treasures of the king's house. 16, and at that time did Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of the temple of Yahweh and from the pillars which Hezekiah king of Judah had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria.
That's crazy. I don't know why I put that in there. But we'll leave that alone for just a moment. I'm going to grab 2 Chronicles chapter 31 and 21. This should...
2 Chronicles what?
31 and 21. And in every work that he began in the service of the house of Yah, and in the law and in the commandments to seek his Yah, he did with all his heart and prospered. This is referring to Hezekiah. So this is the establishing of his kingship, okay? Let's see. Chapter 32 of the same book. Let's see. Chapter 32, verse 23. You got that? Hercules.
None of it is fit.
Nah, everything else is good.
What you got to take it outside and let it get warm?
What I'm gonna do with it? It don't. The other two pieces that go on the end of it, I got.
What is this, the head for?
Yeah, it's some mirrors. I'm gonna get the wall clamps for the mirrors, but the mirror is supposed to go on the back of it. And the lighting that I just took out, and then the two pieces is just too big in there. I wouldn't be able to. It's nothing I could do.
It's like Jerry with the huge. You know what I'm saying?
Basement and stuff.
Why?
So it don't get warm.
You look like a desk, yo.
Oh yeah, that's a fact.
See? See what I do, baby? See what I do?
That's something. Yo, this could be the whole thing.
See what I do? See, I helped you out there.
Something.
See, I always do. Will, baby. Where there's a will, there's a way. All right, so 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 23. Just be careful, don't hit the.
Yeah,
32 and 23. And many brought gifts unto Yahweh to Jerusalem, and presents to Hezekiah king of Judah, so that he was magnified in the sight of all nations from thenceforth. So this is the kind of greatness Hezekiah had. Okay, let's read that one more time. And many brought gifts unto Yahweh to Jerusalem, and presents to Hezekiah king of Judah. He's getting the same kind of honor Jehoshaphat got, because people brought him gifts and riches in abundance. So that he was magnified in the sight of all nations from thenceforth. So people was looking at Hezekiah like, yo, this brother all right here. He's righteous, he's glorious, he's wealthy, he's smart. Hezekiah, that dude. That's how the nations view Hezekiah. So his greatness, okay, was, on par with Jehoshaphat, was on par with Solomon, in some degree on par with David. Okay? Let's read verses 32 and 33.
Of the same 30.
Yep, of the same chapter. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah, his goodness, behold, they are written in the vision of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the chiefest of the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh his son reigned in his stead. So even at his death, he got great honor. And he in the chiefest sepulchres of the sons of David. So it wasn't just granite. It was marble. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It wasn't just slate rock. It was polished. You know what I'm saying? Polished stone. It looked nice. Okay? Because he was a great king, a righteous king. Now let's see what Hezekiah did to help and aid in the restoration or the building of the temple. 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 3. He, in the first year of his reign, in the first month, so in the first month he got on that throne, Hezekiah was such a righteous man, this was what was on his mind. In the first month, you know how a king says, my first order of business, this was Hezekiah's first order of business. First month of the first year of his reign. Open the doors of the house of Yahweh and repair them. So when he say that, it's not just the doors, meaning he opened the doors, he got his chief architects and chief engineers and chief builders and construction workers and those who are craftsmen and artisans. We're going to open up the doors, you're going to go in, and I want you to tally up and let me know what needs repairs, because we're going to do a great renovation of the house of the temple of Yahweh. This is my first order of business. Well, we're looking at the scaffolding here, Hezekiah, and it looks like it's a little old. Okay, we're going to have to change that up. We're looking at the molding here, and it looks like it's a little dried out. Okay, we're looking at the flooring. Can it be readjusted? Okay, can we think we can reaffirm or reestablish or fortify the walls and maybe add some more gold here and a little more silver here? What can we do to just make this house look more glorious? My first order of business. There is no expense too great for the house of Yahweh. What can we do to repair it and make it look its best? I want it to look as good, if not better, than when Solomon built it. And this was hundreds of years since the time of Solomon. What can I do? My first order of business. So we see that he was a righteous and great king, and his mind was towards the Most High. He said he did it with all of his heart. Whatever he did in commandment and keeping the Most High, he did with all of his heart. So when he went into this, and one of the chief builders would come to Hezekiah or coming to the chief chamberman or whoever, King Hezekiah, looks like we're running a little short here. Do you really want to go the extra mile and pay a couple extra $1,000 to get that, that precious metal? Yes, there's no expense. If I got to give up some of mine, I'll do it. This is the house of the Most High we're talking about here. You see how Trump's apartment look?
Yeah.
That's not really my style, but I'm sure a lot of money went into furnishing that apartment, okay? Not my style. But he put a lot of money into that. He did. So in the same way, Hezekiah's like, yo, we got to make sure everything is on point. Open up the doors. Give me a checklist of everything that needs repairing. You artisans, I need you hard at work so we can get this house looking on point. Okay? All right, now we're going to go to the affliction. Let's see what Hezekiah did wrong. Okay? So, there came a point when Hezekiah became sorely sick. All right? He had not sinned or anything. It's just sickness fell upon him. Sometimes that's the lot of a man. He just gets sick. And Hezekiah the king was deathly sick. Like he was sick real bad. Not quite like Jehoram with his intestine falling out his butt, but he was sick. You know what I'm saying? Like corona type sick, huh?
Well, it wasn't because he sinned by letting those people come.
No, we getting there. We getting there, baby. Don't worry about it. We getting there. So we gotta just set up the story. You know what I'm saying? Get the story right. Give the backdrop. So Hezekiah was sick, right? And he recovered. The Most High brought healing to Hezekiah, and he recovered. All right. With that being said, there were the princes of Babylon, because remember, it said that nations knew of him and gave him gifts. So he was renowned among the nations, King Hezekiah. And when it was heard that he was sick and was recovered, the princes of Babylon sent gifts to him and said, we're glad that you're doing well. Gave him get well soon cards and whatnot, and different gifts and entreatments unto him. We heard you recovered. We're so glad to hear that, King Hezekiah. Okay, so now we're going to go to 2 Kings chapter 20. You got 2 Kings?
Chapter 20.
Yep. Verse 17 and 18.
17 and 18. 2 Kings chapter 20, verses 17 and 18. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried unto Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith Yahweh. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon.
So this is the punishment. This is the punishment that Hezekiah faced because of his sinfulness. That's the punishment. I want you to hold that. I'm going to read the beginning of that chapter and discuss what Hezekiah did wrong. Remember the three components of the Davidic covenant promise, that the Most High would establish his posterity's kingdom. They would help to establish or restore the temple, and then they would sin and be afflicted with the rods of men and with the children of men. All right? Stripes of the children of men. So 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 1, and I'm going to read maybe to, let's see, maybe 7. Okay, we'll read to 7. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and the prophet Isaiah the son of Amos came to him, and said unto him, Thus saith Yahweh, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. Then he turned his face to the wall, and prayed unto Yahweh, saying, I beseech thee, O Yahweh, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth, and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle court, that the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, Turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, Thus saith Yahweh, the king of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up into the house of Yahweh. And I will add unto thy days 15 years, and I will deliver thee in this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city for my own sake, and for my servant David's sake. 7. And Isaiah said, Take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the bowel, and he recovered. So that's kind of amazing right there. Boil, thank you. Taking a lump of figs and putting it on the boil, and it recovers. It's not witchcraft. Okay, that's just divine medicine right there. I'm going to read past 7. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, What shall be the sign that Yahweh will heal me, and that I shall go up into the house of Yahweh the third day? Let me see. Where's it at? Here we go. Verse 12. At that time, Berodach-baladan, the son of Baladan, the king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. So we see that really for no reason, because Hezekiah was righteous. The Most High just caused, it was his lot for him to be sick. And he was about to die from that sickness. Isaiah the prophet came and told him, Yo, get your house in order, you're about to die. Why? I didn't do nothing wrong. And he prayed to the Most High, and the Most High heard him. I'm going to give you 15 extra years. I'm going to confirm this healing, okay? So after he recovered, this is where Hezekiah goes off. So he wasn't sick unto death because he sinned, but after he was recovered, then he began to sin. Verse 12 again, or verse 13. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them, and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold and the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. So these princes of Babylon came, or sent him, presents and letters telling him, we're glad you're better. Now, they didn't ask to see it. Now, they maybe had an ulterior motive to want to see it, to spy him out so that they can overthrow him. But to his own folly, some kind of had that nigga mindset for just a minute and said, yo, let me show you everything I got, bro. Like this MTV Cribs. Let me show you something. All right, so this is how my bedroom looking. You see that? Let me show you some of the gold and silver I got, in my closet. He went and showed these brothers everything he had in his entire dominion. He said there was nothing that he didn't show. You want to see my sneaker collection? Let me show you the Hezekiah sneaker collection. Let me show you what I got. Showed them everything. Man, Hezekiah looked like you got a lot. No, this ain't even it. Let me show you the other chamber where I got extra stuff. For real? Let me show you. Brother, open the door so they can see. Pull back the curtain so they can see. Showing them everything. You want to see my wife's closet? Let me show you my wife's closet. Showing them everything. I got this brand new stainless steel golden ornamented toilet. Let me show you that. Showing them everything. Everything. Okay? 14. Then came Isaiah, Barakatha. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah and said unto him, what said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in thine house? Isaiah already knowing what's up. What did they see in your house, Hezekiah? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. Now, what was the scripture I gave you? 18 and 19 or something?
17 and 18.
Read those for me one more time. So this is the judgment for showing off like this is MTV Cribs. This is the judgment of Hezekiah. Go on.
17. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house and that which thy father have laid up in store unto this day shall be carried unto Babylon.
Salakia. So this is talking about the times of David and Solomon up unto Hezekiah. All of the great riches and all of the abundance and gold and all of these things from the time of David. Because remember, when David was not given permission by the Most High to build him a house when he had the desire to do so, he said, okay, I will provide resources and provide material for my son to give him like a head start. So David gave up glory and all of that stuff for Solomon. We know Solomon built the first house and all the other kings added to the house, either took some out or added to the house. And so from the time of David to Hezekiah, Isaiah is saying every bit of the good stuff that is in the house of Yahweh will be taken. Read on.
Nothing shall be left, saith Yahweh. 18. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon.
So this is the punishment because of Hezekiah's sin. This is what's going to come upon you and your children and your posterity and the children of Israel altogether. Because in the same thing, that the second vision that the Most High gave Solomon, and when he spoke to him in 1 Kings chapter 9, you have the Davidic covenant, but now you have the Solomon covenant in agreement. If you mess this up, Solomon, this not only will affect you, but your children and the whole children of Israel, all of y'all going into slavery. And Hezekiah starting seeing the first fruits of this sinful consequence. He said, because you did this and you want to show the princes of Babylon all of your treasures, they're going to have your treasures and they're going to have you too in Babylon. Okay? We're still staying on the concept of Solomon not being reincarnated as Yahawashi. But I'm breaking these things down to show you all of these kings of Judah who came through the line of David, came through the line of Solomon, fulfilled the self-same covenant components of 2 Samuel chapter 7, just like Solomon did. But that doesn't mean they all were reincarnated as Yahawashi. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. I'm not trying to act like I know everything, but we want to look at the scriptures and try to get understanding.
Hallelujah. Rightly dividing
Rightly dividing the word of truth.